Imagine a land ravaged by drought, where the skies are gray and the earth is parched. This is the world of ancient Israel, where the prophet Elijah steps into the spotlight. In 1 Kings 17, Elijah stands before King Ahab, proclaiming a severe drought that will not end until he declares it so. The verse text tells us, "And Elijah the Tishbite, of the inhabitants of Gilead, said unto Ahab, As the Lord God of Israel liveth, before whom I stand, there shall not be dew nor rain these years, but according to my word." The drought that follows is a direct result of Elijah's prophecy, and it is during this time that we see the Lord's providence at work. The Lord instructs Elijah to hide by the brook Cherith, where he will be fed by ravens. The verse text describes this miraculous event, saying, "And it shall be, that thou shalt drink of the brook, and I have commanded the ravens to feed thee there." The ravens bring Elijah bread and flesh, and he drinks from the brook. However, as time passes, the brook dries up, and Elijah must once again rely on the Lord for provision. The Lord sends Elijah to a widow in Zarephath, where he will find sustenance. When Elijah arrives, he meets the widow, who is gathering sticks to prepare a final meal for herself and her son. Elijah asks her for a little water and a piece of bread, and the widow, despite her own poverty, shares what little she has. The verse text describes this encounter, saying, "And she said, As the Lord thy God liveth, I have not a cake, but an handful of meal in a barrel, and a little oil in a cruse, and, behold, I am gathering 2 sticks, that I may go in and dress it for me and my son, that we may eat it, and die." Elijah tells the widow not to fear, for the Lord will provide for her and her son. The verse text says, "For thus saith the Lord God of Israel, the barrel of meal shall not waste, neither shall the cruse of oil fail, until the day that the Lord sendeth rain upon the earth." This event showcases Elijah's trust in the Lord and the Lord's power to provide, even in the midst of adversity. As we continue to follow Elijah's story, we come to 1 Kings 18, where he confronts the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel. Elijah proposes a test, where the prophets of Baal will call upon their God, and he will call upon the Lord. The verse text says, "And call ye on the name of your gods, and I will call on the name of the Lord, and the God that answereth by fire, let him be God." The outcome of this test is a resounding declaration of the Lord's power. The prophets of Baal cry out to their God, but there is no response. Elijah, on the other hand, calls upon the Lord, and fire comes down from heaven, consuming the sacrifice. Saint Cyril of Alexandria observes that Elijah's actions on Mount Carmel are a testament to the Lord's power and authority. He notes that Elijah's bold declaration and the subsequent miracle are a demonstration of the Lord's sovereignty over all things. This event showcases the Lord's power and Elijah's trust in him, even in the face of opposition. As we continue to follow Elijah's story, we come to 1 Kings 19, where he flees from Queen Jezebel, who seeks to kill him. During his journey, Elijah comes to a cave, where he is met by the Lord. The verse text says, "And, behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind rent the mountains, and brake in pieces the rocks before the Lord, but the Lord was not in the wind, and after the wind an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake, and after the earthquake a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire, and after the fire a still small voice." Saint Ephrem the Syrian notes that the still small voice that Elijah hears is a symbol of the Lord's gentle and loving nature. He observes that the Lord's presence is not always accompanied by grand or dramatic events, but often by a gentle and quiet whisper. This event showcases the Lord's gentle and loving nature, and Elijah's ability to hear and respond to his voice. As we near the end of Elijah's story, we come to 2 Kings 2 verses 1 to 12, where he is taken up to heaven in a whirlwind. The verse text describes this dramatic event, saying, "And it came to pass, as they still went on, and talked, that, behold, there appeared a chariot of fire, and horses of fire, and parted them both asunder, and Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven." Elisha, Elijah's protege, is left behind, and he tears his clothes in grief. However, he also picks up Elijah's mantle, which has fallen from him, and returns to the Jordan River. The verse text says, "And he took the mantle of Elijah that fell from him, and smote the waters, and said, where is the Lord God of Elijah? And when he also had smitten the waters, they parted hither and thither, and Elisha went over. As we reflect on Elijah's story, we are reminded of the Lord's power and provision. We see a prophet who trusts in the Lord, even in the midst of adversity, and who is rewarded with miraculous events and a dramatic exit from this world. The story of Elijah invites us to trust in the Lord, to rely on his provision, and to wait for his gentle and loving voice. We are encouraged to be like Elijah, trusting in the Lord's power and provision, and to respond to his gentle and loving voice, even in the midst of adversity.